Okay, so I'm just going to show you two tricks for adding clock-like features to the face. So you're going to have to start with a sketch, and you want the sketch to be on the clock face. So many of you will probably want to have a second layer around the edge of the clock. So in order for that to happen, you need to, first of all, hit P for project. So project that clock geometry in. And in fact, we can even turn off the clock. Or we can't turn off the mechanism, but we can turn off the body, okay? And so then what we can do is go get the offset tool, and we can use it to add a second line on the inside of the clock. So you'll notice by dragging it in, it's minus, so I'm just going to type minus 30. So we'll add a second line on the inside there of the clock. Let's go turn the mechanism off too. And now I want to show you how you can add evenly spaced markers around the edge of your clock face. And we're going to use a new tool. We're going to use the slot tool. Okay, and so there's a number of different ways you can make slots, but the center-to-center slot is probably the most intuitive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to make sure that I'm locked into this vertical line, and I'm going to do one end of my slot here, and I'll do one end of my slot here, and then as I drag it out, it'll make the slot. So I'm going to make my slot 5 millimeters wide. And now to make the slot, it had to add all these different constraints that are kind of annoying. So I'm just going to go over here to my sketch panel and turn off the constraints. Now I don't want my slot to have a rounded edge like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the two ends with the trim tool. I'm just going to join them up with straight lines. But I don't really want it to have a right angle either, so I'm going to use my fillet tool to just give a little bit of a round edge to my slot. Okay, so I've got my one slot there. So now I want 12 of them going evenly around my clock face. So to do that, I use a tool called the circular pattern tool. So I click on the circular pattern tool, and the first thing I want to do is select the objects I want to pattern. So I'm going to select all of that slot. Then I go down to I have to select the center point I want to rotate it around, and that's going to be my origin. And by default, it goes to 3. So you can see I've now made 3 of them. If I click 4, 5, 6, so some of you may not want to have 12 indicators around your clock. You might want to just have 6. But if I go all the way up to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I can get all my evenly spaced indicators in there. And then I go finish sketch. And I'm just going to click the home button to home it. So now what I want to do, let's turn our clock back on again. So let's say I want to have a rim on my clock. So I'm going to extrude this part of the sketch up. So I'm going to hit E for extrude, click on that. Remember, all of our materials for this project are 3 millimeters thick. Now what you want to be careful about is the operation over here. So you can see Fusion thinks I want to join this to the base. But I don't. I want it to be a separate piece because I'm going to be cutting it out as a separate piece. So I'm going to actually go new body, and it'll create the new body in the clock face mechanism. So let's go OK. So you can see here, now I can go over here to the clock face and rename this and call this ring. And I'll just bear with me while I change the appearance. Okay, so now I want to extrude my holes, except that they've disappeared. Fusion will do this sometimes. If you're working on one part of the model, it will assume you don't want to see the sketches. So you can see here, my sketch just got turned off. So I'm going to turn that sketch back on, and I'm going to use the extrude command again. But this time, I'm going to use a different feature. So I'm going to go and select all of my slots. Whoops, I accidentally clicked on the face there, so I clicked on it a second time to deselect it. So you can see I've selected 12 different profiles. And now if I just take this arrow and I just drag it through, Fusion automatically goes, oh yeah, he wants to cut a hole. And it automatically changes the operation to cut. However, I could just do that, but if I then build some more things down here later on, these holes will get cut through them as well. So instead I'm going to go to extent. I could just type -3. That would work, but I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm going to click, this means cut to some object I select. And now I need to select the object. So I'm going to select the back side of this clock face, and it'll just cut through that. The good thing about this is if for some reason I decide I want to change the thickness of the material to like 6 millimeters, it'll still cut the hole through to the back side. And I'm going to click OK. And so now I have made a ring, and I have cut holes for hour markers.